Hey there, my name is Tracy Spears, and I'm super excited to introduce you this week to the Shift Out Loud guest, and it is Allison B. Walden. So let's talk a little bit about Allison. Trained in communications and business with certifications in nonprofit management and fundraising, Allison is sought after as a sales coach and speaker to national audiences in the areas of nonprofit revenue development, culture, and capability building for nonprofit leaders. With 20 years of fundraising and nonprofit leadership experience, Allison serves as the Senior Vice President of Resource Development at the Tulsa Regional Chamber, leading a team of 7 to care and cultivate member relationships and generate more than $9 million a year for member programs and community initiatives. Allison is a self-professed introvert who values independence, creativity, curiosity, adventure, and risk-taking at work and in life, while equally valuing structure, process, action, and efficiency to achieve results, win big, and drive transformational change. We're going to talk about all that for sure. Allison serves as the chair of the Curriculum Committee for the Organization Management Program of the United States Chamber of Commerce and serves as a faculty member for the Academy Program of the Western Association of Chamber of Commerce Professionals. In 2020, they named Allison the Chamber Staff Person of the Year. Beyond her professional career, Allison's hobbies include vocal and instrumental music, competitive weightlifting, coaching softball, camping, and back porch sitting. I love that. In January 2025, Allison released her first studio album entitled Octopus under the stage name of Allie B. The album is available now on all platforms, and you should go download it, and has been streamed in multiple countries and U.S. cities nationwide. Allison also performs live as a featured vocalist for the Signature Symphony of TCC and for various nonprofit and community events. Allison lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma with her family, has been married to her husband, Chris, for more than 20 years, and together they are parents to 2 wonderful children and 1 lovable dog. That's quite a bio. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of things in there. Allison, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Listen, we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm very glad that it's finally happening, and I'm glad it's happening now. And the reason for that is because of all the things that have happened in the last year. My gosh. Mm-hmm. So before we start talking about all those things, let me just ask you to tell the audience a little bit about you. Where are you from? And let's kind of get a sense of who Allison is.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the question. Admittedly, it's a little bit complicated. I'm not originally from Tulsa. I've been in Tulsa about 16 years, but I grew up in a military family and all that entails. So, if you have listeners that come from a military background or maybe even a corporate background, maybe their parents moved around a lot, for work, there is a little bit of a nuance in a kind of an arrangement like that, where your family unit doesn't necessarily have the ability to dictate where you live and for how long. So I remember growing up in a state of transition. It's to the point now where, as an adult, if things are static for too long, I got to shake it up. I got to move furniture. I have to do a huge spring cleaning. I have to rearrange my life. I have to enact some transformational change. I got to disrupt something because static and complacent just feels uncomfortable. So you can imagine when I grew up in kind of a state like that, where that was modeled, and people had to be agile and had to have a really good positive attitude and just kind of go with it. I feel like those characteristics became ingrained in me really early on that have really helped me in my professional and my personal life. So what that means is I was born in Virginia. So when people say, where were you from? I was born in Virginia, but I was there for 9 months. And then moved to Florida, and then moved overseas and was able to live in Eastern Europe before the Cold War was over. So before the wall came down for those 80s babies or people that were born earlier than that, you know what I'm talking about. And so it was a really interesting time to live overseas. And that came with its own challenges because American culture doesn't necessarily translate to Eastern Europe. So when I transitioned back to the United States, stateside, it was to the west. It was in New Mexico. And so that was a double culture shock, and kind of figuring out how to reestablish who I was and how I was going to kind of engage as a middle schooler was a real challenge. So I made my way to the south, and now I continue to make my way further west as I got married and moved to Oklahoma from Tennessee. after a bout in Europe and New Mexico. So I've been everywhere.
Wow. That's quite a journey. I love hearing that. Did you like reinventing yourself though? Every time you went somewhere new, you got to decide who you wanted to be. Did you like that?
I think I grew to appreciate it. And admittedly, when I think about my hobby as a recording artist and a music, kind of pursuing a music career as well as a professional career, I remember looking at people like Tina Turner and specifically Madonna. And I noticed that Madonna, because I grew up in the 80s, she kind of had a different look and feel and vibe every 5 or 6 years. And I remember asking my mom about it. Hey, is that the same person who sang this song about 7 years ago? And now she's kind of doing this. Oh, yes. Madonna transforms, all the time. That's kind of her thing. She's never going to be one thing. She kind of evolves and changes up her look, changes up her vibe. And that I internalized that. Very early on, realizing that like you can choose to be someone like Madonna, and there is value in reassessing and kind of realigning how you want to show up in the world. And I really do think I've kind of not captured that. I'm certainly not the essence of Madonna. I'd love to be the essence of Beyonce, honestly. But
who wouldn't?
Yeah, but it's definitely something I captured really early on as a child. I remember the first time I remember moving, I was in kindergarten, and I remember moving from Florida to Germany and looking out the airplane window as, 6 or 7-year-old, and realizing I was never going to see my best friend across the street again. And it was devastating. So I can't say it was all good. There are definitely some challenges that I have kind of inherited through the lifestyle that we had. So, permanency, friends that last decades, those aren't things that come easily to me because they weren't built into my life.
Interesting. It's so Wally, my business partner, he always talks about, he moved around a lot, similar, and that he loved, like, I think I'll be this guy. I think I'll, so he flirted with that a bit, but he wasn't thinking about Madonna for sure, or so you might have manifested this singing career because of that conversation. And I want to get to that for sure, because I'm fascinated by this, because I met you long before I knew about Allie B, or that you had this, musical talent that's crazy good, by the way. And I want to tell the audience all about that. But take me back to that, like when you think about all of the shifts that happen, so you're shifting, moving around. When was the shift where you remember thinking, oh, I'm going to actually stay here? Was it when you got to Oklahoma? When did you realize, hey, wait a minute, I don't have to keep doing that because of, the military family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, gosh, it's such a good question. I'm trying to decide between two different locations. New Mexico. Before I moved to high school and college, in middle school, we moved back from Europe to New Mexico. We, instead of staying in one place 3 years, which was typical for us, 3 to 3.5 years, we ended up staying 6 years because my father had a kind of career transition. For those kind of military folks at 20 years within the military, some folks decide to get out and kind of transition into another career field. And that was his intention, to kind of finish out his military service and then figure out what to do next. So we ended up staying in New Mexico longer, about 6 years, because he retired about 2/3 of the way through that. And they had to figure out, who am I going to be? How am I going to reinvent myself? And I watched my dad figure that out. And it wasn't always easy. And there were some strains on the family. Like, you had a paycheck and then you didn't, how do you navigate that? And so, what was really wonderful about that time period is I realized we were going to stay for a while. We were going to stay longer than 3.5 years. And in middle school is tough anyway.
Sure.
But I ended up being involved in middle school band. So that was kind of my first formal music education experience that created a lot of stability. And those band directors were exceptional leaders. And they drove us to a state championship as a band. And I remember feeling that pride of excellence and that rigor that I'd never had before in an activity. And I also found a really good friend group, which I think was so, so important. So I learned in middle school that friendship and long-term friendships were possible, maybe not always easy, but it was the first time I was given that opportunity.
So what did you play? What was the instrument?
Yeah, I was a flute player, which was kind of strange because my mother was a clarinet player. My father was a trumpet player. My grandfather was saxophone and clarinet player. My uncle plays the drums. So I come from a long legacy of musicians, but nobody played the flute. So I, had to go through the process of convincing my parents it was worth the money to rent or purchase an instrument. And then, of course, I had to stick with it. But it was fun. It was fun to do something different. And my dad was able to coach me along the way. And my mom was a pianist. And so she was able to accompany me. So it really created some nice family memories that we still talk about.
Gosh, so you grew up in a musical family. I didn't realize that. So
yeah. What's interesting about it, though, is they were all instrumentalists. Some of them are professional musicians overseas. And so for me to kind of put away my instrumental hat and pick up a vocal hat was very uncomfortable because I was the only one in my family doing it. And so I had to feel like I really had to give myself permission to be different, honestly.
When did you step on your first stage and sing?
It was in a talent show in elementary school in New Mexico. I was not a popular kid, and I knew that. But I knew that I had a shot at going up on stage and singing something that I really wanted to sing and that was of the moment. It was so relevant. So if you remember in the 90s when Disney's cartoons were the rage, it was when Aladdin came out. And I pulled my friend aside and said, we're going to practice every day for 2 weeks. We're going to dress in kind of robes. And we're going to go up on stage and sing that famous song from Aladdin that Jasmine and Aladdin sing on the carpet where they all fall in love. And I thought after we got on, I thought it was great. But after we got on stage, I was fully prepared to be ridiculed, made fun of, and kind of harassed by the popular kids. I was just ready for it, right? That's what in middle school, that's just what happens. Those girls and boys and kids came up to us and gave us the most incredible compliments. And it was the first time that people outside of my family group had complimented my singing voice. And I thought, you know what? Against all odds, against my popularity or lack of, people acknowledged that gift above kind of social pressures. And it was a real glimmer of hope and possibility that, hey, maybe I was good at this and I should, number one, not really worry about what people think, but not be so surprised when people were excited and gave positive feedback. I kind of conditioned myself to always think about the negative. I'm super hard on myself. So I'm always surprised when people give me positive feedback. I think that's still a thing for me too.
I know it's still a thing for you because I know you, and we can talk about that. But I love that you had that experience, that you were surprised in that.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything more or scarier than standing on stage and singing, though. So like you, that you were willing to do that and put yourself out there. What happened after that? Did you get the bug and did you go, okay, I'm going to be Madonna or Lizzo, apparently?
No, nothing.
But
absolutely nothing. Went back to life as normal. Now, I will say I was a bit of, my mom's going to hate to hear me say this, but I was a bit of a latchkey kid in the 90s. I'm using all of these terms from the past, but my dad was off trying to get a new job for the commercial airlines like Delta, Southwest, American, and that's very difficult to do. And so he was off and kind of trying to make that happen, wasn't around a lot. And so my mom worked 2 jobs to try to make sure that we could kind of have a stable household. And so we spent a lot of time at home, especially in the summertime. So I'd go out in the backyard in New Mexico, which had no grass in it, by the way,
right.
And just kind of look out at this beautiful horizon of mountains and wildlife and write songs. So I kind of got the songwriting kind of bug. And I still have old notebooks of the worst songs coming out of a 5th grade mind that you would ever imagine. But I thought they were great. And so, I kind of cultivated my songwriting skills when I was home alone or, hanging out with my brother and having nothing else to do.
Did you ever share all of that with the family at the time, or did you keep it all a secret?
Kept it all a secret. I've still never shared because they're so bad. I mean, there's just no value in putting that out in the world, but it did kind of create kind of that interest or that spark of like, yeah, maybe I can not only sing, but maybe I can write my own song someday.
So in the album that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I loved everything about it. I have listened to it. I loved the way you put the album together and that you put all of the words to all of your songs. I loved all of that. Before we get there, though, I want to get our audience up to that point because weightlifting is in here. Like you've thrown me a couple of curves since I've known you. So we met in the business world and I just remember the first surprise. The first surprise was that you're an introvert.
For sure. Yeah. A solid introvert. I used to try to pretend that I was an omnivert. I don't even know if that's a word. Because I've kind of leaned in and pushed into a space that requires me to flex into that extrovert kind of realm very, very often. And so a lot of people say that they're very surprised by that. But I think that the lens that I take on it, and I really learned it from my mother. My mother's in the medical field. She spent 20 years at St. Jude caring for children with cancer. Oh. And she showed up to work every day with a servant's attitude because she knew that her work mattered. And I really take that approach with my work. It's like, it's my job in the nonprofit industry, certainly in the Chamber of Commerce industry, in my opinion, to help people feel welcome, included, and cared for. And so if that means I have to steel myself and get my energy, get extra sleep the night before and walk into the room and focus on everyone else before myself, then that's my job. Right. And so the aftermath of that plays out differently from evening to evening. But the reality is that I feel like that is my job, to fuel up and to give it all away and then figure out how to come home and recharge.
So you said the aftermath. I can imagine you like curled up on the couch, like, catatonic, like, don't talk to me.
No doubt. I will say my family does bear that burden as well. I can't always be on at home and at work at the same time in the same day. So I really do have to figure out how to create that ebb and flow.
So what do you do to recharge? Because as we know, introvert or extrovert it's not who's standing in front of the room talking. That has nothing to do with it. An introvert gains their energy internally, and an extrovert gains their energy from interacting with people. And an introvert has an internal thinking process, which has to really think things through before they speak. And an extrovert says it all out loud. So just level setting for the audience. So what do you do to recharge your battery? Because that would be a little bit more in isolation. Is that the weightlifting? Is that how that comes to be?
No, unfortunately, weightlifting doesn't have anything to do with recharging. I wish it did. I'd do it more. But it does have some other benefits. But I'll share a few things I do during the day, because I think so often introverts think that they have to get through with all of their world and then go kind of into their inner world, which sometimes I do for sure. I think songwriting helps with that a lot, and a lot of that back porch thing that you mentioned earlier. But throughout the day, what I've learned to do is, if I have 15 minutes in between meetings, I will go into kind of a corner of my office where people can't see that I'm in there. And I'll prop my feet up on the windowsill and look out the window and reflect upon what has just happened over the last 2 or 3 hours, because I'm a bit of a people pleaser as well. And I can get very easily distracted by stimuli out in the world and not necessarily listen to my own needs or my own voice. I think that also comes from watching my mom serve others so well. That's kind of my default. And so giving myself a moment to quiet my mind, reset and reflect and think about like what I need and how I feel, I think is really helpful before I go on to the next thing. And one more task or one more tool that I use during the day is, often I go from meeting to meeting. We all know that feeling of being in the car and then having to go. Sometimes I will go to a meeting with another individual from my office, but we may take separate cars, and they may notice that I come in 15 minutes later after the meeting than they do. Like we all come back to the office. It's like, hey, I went to come find you and you weren't in your office. I was sitting in my car.
Right.
Just taking a second to recharge, rethink, refuel. Like, just because someone else gets energy from, rushing back and kind of engaging into the next thing, I might need just a little bit more time. But what I've learned is, for many years, I was kind of afraid to share that I needed just a little bit extra time, because maybe that meant I was weak or I wasn't as committed to my work or my job. Now I've realized that taking that extra 15 minutes before I go on to the next thing is actually in service to my job and in service to my leadership. But I've had to be honest and communicate that was a need of mine, and it was so well received.
Oh, gosh. I love everything about this. What I love most is the intention that you're moving about the world with, because that's a lot of self-awareness. And that's, I think, hard to do, to say, wait a minute, I need to put the oxygen mask on me first. So I love that that's how you're managing that. So well done, friend. Do you ever sit in the car and write songs? Because that's also one of your recharge things. Is that true?
Sometimes, yes. And sometimes I'll go long stretches without writing anything down. And it makes me worry that, because the greatest fear of a songwriter is writer's block, right? Like, I have nothing more to say. I've said everything in the world there is to say, and now I'm useless. And that's not true either. But I tell my husband all the time, if I were to ever disappear from the world, pass on to the next realm, whatever that looks like, please know that there are treasures on my phone. There are half-written songs, there are voice memos, there are all of these things that you can compile. Prince has come out with 12 albums after he's passed away, and it's because he had all of this stuff that people were able to go through and cobble together. So maybe my best work will be after I pass away.
I hope not. I don't think that's going to be. I think it's going to happen while you're still alive to enjoy it. Let's talk about it. So you've been working at the chamber for how long? You've been in that
15 years.
15 years. Okay.
Yes. And I was 29 when I started there.
Is that right? So we must have met right after that. Is that true? Okay.
Yes. I think you were doing some consulting, some coaching, some leadership development with our folks. It's one thing I will say about my organization is that they are very, very committed to the professional development of their membership, but also the professional development of their staff. And we've really learned a lot from folks like you and others that have come in to kind of pour into us. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you know this, your voice is in my head on a regular basis.
Oh. No, I did not know that.
Oh, for sure. There are things that I've learned from you, and there have been some sticky situations you've helped coach me out of. Managing yourself and others, I think, is the hardest thing that anyone will ever do.
100%. 100%. Well, I will say this. You have always been super thoughtful, and sometimes you have a conversation with someone and nothing changes, but with you, that was never the case. Like, you took the information, you did what you needed to do, and you kept going. So to your credit, well done, friend. Okay. Now we're going to talk about this songwriting thing or do you want to talk about weightlifting first?
Oh, actually, thank you for bringing that back up. I think this is a perfect segue to that, actually. Okay. Because to your point, I love that you've observed that I do approach conversations trying to move forward and create action. And I think that does stem from some lessons I learned early on with sports. I was not necessarily a sporty kid. I was kind of a creative and artistic dance kid. And was kind of leaning into some gymnastics and acrobatics when we moved from Florida. We moved to Europe, and none of that stuff was available. So I was able to keep up with a little bit of it, but it wasn't really at a competitive pace. And so 3.5 years later, I moved back. I'm no longer in kindergarten. I am kind of in 4th, 5th grade. And some of the dexterity, some of the progress that I'd made had really eroded. And besides that, in New Mexico, nobody had kind of advanced level dance and kind of artistic movement at the time. We were in the middle of, kind of a sports mecca. So my parents very intelligently and against my will put me into soccer and softball. I think I misquoted how old I was. I want to say I was going into 6th grade, so a little bit older than that, kind of emerging middle schooler. And I was playing against kids who had been playing sports their whole life. I got slayed. Bruises, ground, blood. All the horror stories that you can imagine for a kid who'd never played sports before competing with kids that had. And it was a lot. Yeah. But what's so interesting about all of that, playing softball and soccer and kind of figuring out how to feel my body again and kind of coordinate and get things to move in the right direction, I never, ever considered giving up because I knew that I was doing something really hard and it was going to be worthwhile. And I really think that I internalized that. And I pursue hard things and I pursue forward momentum, sometimes even to the point of my own detriment. Like, sometimes the best thing you can do is rest. And I've had to learn that. You gave me a lot of credit earlier for figuring that out. I don't think that was by choice. I think it's because I'm getting older and I just don't have as much energy. I have to be more strategic with my energy.
I love that you're talking about having a strategy for energy because that's very smart. And you will get more and more strategic. That's all I can say. as someone much older than you are, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so to that point, I kind of went through a weight loss journey after I had both my kids because I found myself in a position where I thought, okay, if I don't do something, I'm going to be middle-aged and not as fit and healthy as I need to be. I mean, there's just a lot of changes that happen when you have kids and you love them dearly, but you're just not put together the way that you were before. And so I ended up going to a gym and finding a weightlifting coach. And I had no interest in her sport whatsoever. The sport is really built for very tall, very large women, likely of Russian descent. So we're talking about kettlebells, lifting, I mean, just massive amounts of weight. And I am the opposite of that. I'm very small. I think I'm 5'1" on a good day. I mean, I'm the opposite of what the ideal kettlebell lifter looks like. But I decided to give it a go. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done to endure under 50 pounds or more for 10 minutes at a time in competition next to someone standing right next to you with a clock counting in your face and people yelling at you. To your point about that being recharging, absolutely not. Right. But what I loved about how hard it was is that I knew that if I pushed through, I would get to a place where I would transcend the pain and unlock a completely different level of possibility. And I had to train to get there. But there was some just euphoria about being 4 minutes into a 10-minute set, looking at the clock and realizing you got this and nobody's going to take it away from you. It turned on that competitive edge that has, I don't know, kind of drives me to pursue those hard things because, you know, like I really do believe you can put your mind to anything.
You know, you're describing something I remember hearing about a runner's high. So as an athlete, you know, I hated running, hated it, all of the things, and yet had to run like, you know, all through college. And I remember them describing, well, you're not running far enough because there will be a moment where you'll actually get euphoric about it. And I'm not going to lie, that didn't happen a lot, but it did happen. So I understand what you're saying. How do you experience that now? I assume it's not just in weightlifting, but there's, you know, what are some of the ways that you experience that now?
I can live off of a vocal performance for a really long time. Like there is a high in that live performance because I think live is so hard. It's so creative in a recording environment, but there are unlimited takes. You only have to hit that note once and you can hit record and it's captured forever. In a live performance, there are multiple things that are going to go wrong. And all you can do to get better is to just move through it. So like I'm singing the national anthem tomorrow night at the FC Tulsa game. The crowd is going to be so excited because the FC Tulsa is actually doing really well. Like they're on the road to being kind of a championship team. Like the momentum is there. So I'm already thinking about, all right, what might I encounter with the crowd that might be different than last time? How can I prepare? How can I bring energy instead of bring the energy down? So I'm thinking all about all of those things as I go into that performance tomorrow. And at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about getting through that so they can go watch the game. But there will be a high associated with that I will bring home, and my kids will feel that energy and my husband will feel it. And it'll carry me on for a little while until my next performance.
I love that. I love that. You did not say how successful you were in this weightlifting thing, though. Do you have some honors that you have won? Do you mind sharing those with us?
Oh, for sure. And what I love about competitive kettlebell weightlifting, it's very similar to golf. Like there's never a threshold where you arrive. And if you compare yourself to other lifters, it's brutal because everybody has a different weight. Their body is a different weight, which means they have to do a different kind of combination of lifts at certain weights in order to actually beat someone else. So I have to lift I have to lift fewer reps at lower weights because of my body style than someone who weighs 100 pounds more than me. They have to lift more weight more times. So there's this grid and scale that's kind of on like a 4 or 5 pound trajectory. So like if I weigh, I'm making this up, 142 pounds, I have to lift 60 times in 10 minutes in order to hit a rank 1 or a rank 2 or a rank 3. So you're always playing the numbers and you're playing the grid. And I've been able to max out on my weight for my body size in 2 of the 3 lifts that are possible with kettlebell sport. I'm still like angry over the fact that I got a rank 2 in my hardest lift. And I know that I am about 5 years away potentially from breaking that record. Just from a training perspective, and I'll probably never do it because it's so hard. But it was really,
Wow.
It's really fulfilling to know that like you don't have to be on a competitive team to be like nationally ranked. I was nationally ranked as a lifter for a while.
That's remarkable. Congratulations on all your success in that. And I want to get to the singing now. Let's just so you surprised me being an introvert. You surprised me winning all the awards as a weightlifter. But nothing surprised me more than the first time I walked into a meeting and you were on stage singing, and it was at a chamber. It was like I think it was the annual meeting. I think about it because I knew that you had some enthusiasm for it, but I had no idea how fucking good you are. So like, when did that turn from, that could to, I'm going to have an album. I'm going to put myself on more stages. Talk about that shift.
Yeah, I had no intention of putting out. I didn't even know how. And there it is. There it is behind me. It's actually on LP, on a record, record size. And I've got a few CDs. Who uses CDs anymore? I don't care. I still have one. It has my face on it. You need. Okay, I will bring this to your house.
I need the album. I have a turntable that I play records on, so I need that too.
Okay. Well, I had no. I mean, what I didn't realize is how easy is the wrong word, but how accessible the equipment now is to the kind of average person to acquire and to learn on their own and put things out into the world. I think it actually cost me less than $100 to get the music out into the world, like the rights, the licensing, the website. Like it was really inexpensive. What is hard is all the other stuff.
Singing.
Yeah, well, that too. But I just happened to move to town in 2009. Followed my husband out here. He was going to teach at a public school in South Tulsa, and so we moved here from Arkansas and we reestablished our lives and all of that. And my first job here in town was at a nonprofit organization in Broken Arrow, and there was somebody there who worked in an adjacent department who I just got to know. His name's Adam, and we just struck up a friendship. I ended up leaving that job about 9 months in to go work at the chamber. So didn't spend a lot of time there. We just kept in touch. I had no idea how musically talented he was, and that he had actually put out multiple albums of his own music. And I found out that he had a podcast, and he would do kind of like a Casey Kasem style top 10 hits for the week. And he would have people come over to his house and record, and they would put out things. It was just kind of a fun thing that he did. And, maybe 5 or 6 years after I left the organization that we worked at together, we ran into each other just kind of spontaneously. And he said, hey, I heard that you sing. Would you like to come over sometime? Send me something that you just, sing in your car or whatever. Send it over to me and just come over. His house is just, it doesn't look like anything other than a normal house from the outside, but inside he has a recording studio. And at the time he had like a 3x3 closet that was covered in egg crates to kind of capture and a microphone stuck in the middle. It's like, wow, this is so cool and very garage band. And so I popped into that closet and sang At Last by Etta James. And when I was done, he didn't say anything. And so I opened the door, like, are you still out there? And I was like, wow, that was so great. And so that started a recording relationship that has lasted now over, I don't even know, 7 years. And about 2.5 years in, would come over and hang out, and we would sing covers. Like I would sing a cover and he would send it back to me, and he would give me notes and I would give him notes. About maybe 2 years into that, he said, hey, I have this track that I've written, instrumental track, but it doesn't have a second verse, and it doesn't have a hook, and it doesn't have a bridge, but it has a first verse. So, it's kind of got the meat to it. What would it look like if you wrote the rest of the song? I was like, I'll give it a shot. It was actually, I got that track while I was traveling to DC for a board that I'm sitting on. And I remember sitting in kind of my 6-story window of this beautiful hotel overlooking a street in Washington, DC. And I started listening to this track and kind of layering vocals and layering words. And it just flew. I don't even know what the right word is. There was a flow. And it's the third song on the album. It's called Breezin'.
Yes.
And it's a song just about kicking it and not caring who wants to get you to call them back or what work you still have to do. You just want to enjoy life. And I felt like it was almost the easiest thing to write. It just felt like it flowed kind of out of me. And I think it's probably still my favorite song on that album. And so sent it back to him. He was like, wow, this is great. We collaborated. We recorded it in the studio together. And he was like, okay, I've got another one. Okay, I've got another one. I had no idea what he was going to do with it at the time. We kind of put 6 or 7 songs together like that. Sometimes he would send me the music. Sometimes I would send him the lyrics and he would build music around it. And then about halfway through this process, it was like 3 years in, he's like, I think you're going to do an album and you're going to do like an album release party someday. And I was like, oh, it's funny. And he was like, no, I'm serious. I think you really could. And from then on, like, that's all he had to say.
Sure.
Then it was on, because that's a goal and that's hard and that's impressive. It's like, if you think I can do it, well, of course, yeah, let's try it. Let's do it. And from that point on, there was no turning back. Like, it was going to happen. And it just was a matter of when we thought the project was finished and when we wanted to kind of put it out.
Gosh, I didn't even know all that was happening, because I just, I was watching you do your job, which you're so good at and so present to, and to know that you have had this entire creative experience and passion that's happening in the background that's really driving you. When did you, you did your release party a year ago now, right? Is that?
It was in January.
Okay, so beginning of this year. Mm-hmm. And what has been the response, Allison? I mean, I can't even imagine. Tell me, what was the experience like, that shift of, before, and people don't know that you're, such a great songwriter, and then they start listening to your album. Tell us a little bit about what that's been like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 3 or 4 responses. The first one, I think, is just complete shock. And that it felt immediate. Have you ever heard people talk about people that are talented as they just have it? Like, oh, you just kind of became this star and it happened overnight and you're just so talented. I don't believe that. I do believe people are talented, but I believe you see that talent in an instant, but it's been building and developing for years. All that hard work maybe shows up like that instant talent. But it's everything that kind of goes into a person has kind of developed them into that moment that maybe shocks people or impresses people. But it's just a segment of the work and the creativity and the heart that's been put into it. So that instant success, I think that's what other people see. I don't think that that's what's real or what's in people's heart. You just don't decide to put out an album one day. But that's a lot of the feedback that I got. It's like, wow, that's amazing. I had no idea. And so my skeptical self, the people that were so shocked and kind of in awe that I would even do this or if this was even a thing, I worried that maybe people didn't like it as much as they just thought it was exciting or different or shocking. Like, is it more about the shock value of it or kind of the blind side, or was it actually any good? So that was all of that. And so I had to kind of get through that. There were some people that have different values than me. A lot of people in my family, for example, that are maybe more shy or were kind of grew up in a world where women should shrink, or you really shouldn't put yourself out there, or, maybe that's embarrassing, or what if your boss doesn't like the lyrics in that song? Like, have you ever thought about what the implication might be? So there was some of that I either had to not really listen to or kind of talk through with some of the people in my circle that maybe were worried for me and what they could maybe protect me from if someone didn't receive something well. All that was just completely ridiculous. I mean, the reception's been wonderful. People have been so kind. And, I think it's just been an exercise in being brave. And if you want to do something, just do it. Because the implication of, if I just think a lot about if I hadn't done this, what would I have been missing out on? What lessons might my kids not have learned? What lessons may I not have learned? The other reception is people have come up to me and said, I have always wanted to do that. but I've never known how, or I just didn't think I could. And seeing you makes me feel like it's possible.
Nice.
And so that's been my favorite response.
For sure, for sure. What led to releasing it as Allie B and not just with Allison Walden?
It was kind of like actually a really just kind of fun joke with my producer, because when I met him, he didn't know I sang and I didn't know he produced. His name was Adam and his middle initial was J. So he just, it was kind of a cute, like Adam J. And so I was Allison B. Walden, and I really wanted to hold on to that B as my middle initial. It was my maiden name. There's a whole story about that, but it's Boudreaux. It's a very unique kind of Cajun or Southern Louisiana name. And even though I'm now a Walden, I really wanted to hold on to those roots, especially because all my family that are Boudreaux are musicians. So I wanted to hold on to that. So he just called me Allie B. And so when we started thinking about the album, do I want to be Allison Walden, which feels very kind of corporate and very, straight and structured, kind of that professional persona that I am and I embrace. But I think I wanted to have a different vibe. So we just kind of leaned into Allie B as like, the vibe of how I maybe would prefer to show up on a daily basis. But, my professional self maybe doesn't allow me the ability to be as relaxed as maybe I would as Allie B. So it's just a little bit more of a relaxed, kind of laid back approach to who I want to project out there in the world. Plus, it's just fun.
Which is more like you, Allison Walden or Allie B?
That's so interesting because like Madonna, like, do you ever know, right? I would love to think that I'm Allie B in real life. I choose to dress more like Allie B and, a little bit more casual and relaxed and a little less decisive and a little more creative and certainly less punctual than I have to be in my professional life. But, I feel like in my Allison Walden chamber kind of service mentality, that's really not, I've grown to make it less about me. My professional career used to be a lot about me. What can I do? What can I achieve? What can I accomplish? Really, in the last 10 years, I've been able to kind of separate myself from that and really think about when I show up to work, how can I serve? What can we do? How can I support my team? How can I make people feel special? And so that's that part of me. And Allie B is a little bit more about me.
Well, I felt like I got to know Allie B through the music and through the pictures that you put in the album and reading through the songs. And I love her, by the way. And, the picture that we're going to put is going to be the one on your album cover also on your bio picture, not the core. I know you sent me two pictures. You sent me three. That is what I'm going to use because with the hair flying and all the things, you seem the happiest to me in that kind of persona. And so how has the album done? What has it done for you? What is the next shift? So there's three questions stacked together.
Yeah, I really had no expectations for the album. I just knew that I wanted it to be done. And I wanted it to be out there. And then I wanted to kind of figure out what was next. And so it's done really well. It helps when you have family members that live in other countries. Like my uncle is a professional drummer in Paris, so I get to say that someone in Paris has listened to my album, which they have. Yep. But what's really cool about some of the artist tracking tools, and they're basically free. They come with your producing packages, and you can go on to kind of a backdoor look at Apple Music. You can see what cities people are listening to you in. You can see what countries they're listening to you in. Dallas actually likes me more than Tulsa does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Chicago's next. So it's so cool. I don't know who they are, but I can see how many times they listened. I can see how many people have listened to me this week, and so over the course, and this is just Apple Music. I don't even have the Spotify stuff. But if you look at all of it, a song on the album has been listened to more than 1,300 times since January, which, nice. I mean, I'm not Beyonce, although I'd love to be. That's significant to me. And I continue to get plays every week. So somebody loves me. Somebody's got me in their playlist. And my goal now is just to keep putting out music. So I've got 2 singles that I'm working on now. I have a blues show that I'm singing with the Signature Symphony in February. And I've got a guitar player who we're working on trying to kind of do some live versions of my music. Because what I've learned is just because you record your music doesn't mean you can actually play it live. You've got to get people to learn your charts and all that kind of stuff. So that's taken longer. The one thing that I feel like the album has done that I didn't anticipate was create more impatience and more desire to lean into that creative space than I ever thought. So like if I don't get to practice ukulele 2 or 3 times a week and really kind of get into the recording studio maybe once or twice every quarter, I get really itchy. And so, but I also have, a family and I have a job. It's very demanding that I care a lot about, and I have people that depend on me. And so what I didn't anticipate was the frustration of, if I had a benefactor, right, I would do this all the time.
Sure.
But I don't. I'm my own benefactor. So I have to figure out how to earn and then create space to allow me to do the things that I want to do.
Thinking as big as possible, what's the dream for your music?
Here's what I think. I've thought a lot about this just because I know that people ask, is that I think what I want the message to be is that it's never too late. It's never too late, and you don't have to be just one thing, and nobody else gets to decide what those things are that make you up. If that's the way to say it.
Those are 4 lines to a song. I hope you're right.
Yeah. So, I would love to have, an artist sing one of my songs one day, or to become a songwriter. Like, what would it look like? And what I would love to do is to stay in Tulsa doing it. I don't want to go to Nashville. I don't want to have to go to New York, where I want to songwrite and produce and elevate myself as an artist and other artists right here in Tulsa. And that is absolutely possible. Teresa Knox with the Church Studio, one of the most generous humans in the world. She helped me get into the studio, and one of the tracks on the album was recorded right here at the Church Studio, my blues track. And she made it happen. Like, it wasn't even a thought that she was going to not help me figure out how to get that done. Tulsa is special. It's certainly special right now for musicians. I feel like it always has been. And so, like, my music may not fit the Tulsa sound necessarily, but I want to figure out how to fit my music into the Tulsa scene.
Listen, I don't think there is a Tulsa sound. We have so many different genres and people and things. And if you could, though, I'm just going to push you. The one artist you're like, man, I would like for them to record my song. Is it Beyonce? Who is it?
Oh, gosh. Oh, there's so many. I'm even trying to think of who I'm listening to right now. There's so many. Oh, you've put me on the spot. I think there's a track on my album called Gone Away, and it's sung in the style of Kelly Clarkson. And I really feel like I captured that essence. I wouldn't necessarily want her to sing one of my songs. Oh, that would be cool. I think I'd like it even better if we sang a song together.
Oh, I love that. Taking it up a notch. A duet.
Yeah.
Well, she loves duets. So
she does. Oh, she can sing anything.
Yeah, she could. Well, listen, I'm so proud of you, and for so many reasons, but just, having a front row seat to watching kind of all these things that are happening for you and where you're sitting right now. You seem happier than I've ever seen you. You seem more settled in whatever that means to you than I've ever seen you. Because there was a lot of, in the beginning, like, am I doing the right thing? All things. But you just it feels like you have a knowing now, and that age will do that for sure. But I also think a level of success that you have had also helps that as well. So what's the next shift that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, for sure. I think just more, I am a planner, and it's taken me, I think I've kind of just gotten through a midlife crisis. I know that sounds kind of strange to say, but I'm 44 now. I really, and I think the pandemic actually kind of heightened my awareness of how, like, what am I doing with my life, know? So I have kind of a 15-year plan. I know when I want to step away from full-time work. I know what I want to do differently when that time comes, and that kind of coincides with my kids getting out of school and transitioning into college. So, like, I know what I want the next 15 years of my life to look like, kind of. I know for sure I want to be here. Now, and when I say here, I mean Tulsa.
Yep.
After that, I'm not sure, but I'm open to certain possibilities related to music or related to chamber service or nonprofit service. So what I like about what that has created for me is a sense of urgency. And I shared this with our CEO, Mike Neal, who's a great coach and a great mentor, and has been a huge supporter of my professional career and my music career, which is so dear. It's created a sense of urgency to where if I have 15 years left in this spot, how do I want to use them? What do I want to experience? What do I want to do? How do I want to live? And I think that's created more kind of a more aggressive approach to identifying how to capitalize on the specialness of this place, which kind of full circle moment. Like I haven't had a sense of place in my life. My sense of place has really been in here. But if I'm rooted here and I know that I may not always be rooted here, how do I want to take advantage of that? Nice. So I want to do more music. I want to experience what Tulsa has to offer. I want to be at the thing, I want to go to the place. And so creating that goal, I think, has really helped me figure out that the next shift is really just experiencing everything this place has to offer and making it feel like my place.
Well, it would be weird for you to not be here. That's what I know. I know we're better because you are here. And for our audience that now, for sure, if they have not already downloaded your music, they can go. I did it on iTunes. So where can they find you? And do you have your website? So let's give them all the contact information.
Yeah, sure. So I do have a website. I think it's alliebeofficial.com. The best place to find me is on any streaming platform. You can also find me on YouTube. All of the songs are on YouTube in a playlist. The trick is if you're on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever that looks like, the SEO isn't great for artists that aren't signed or aren't super popular. So you can't just put in Octopus, which is the album, or you can't just put in Allie B. You really have to put it all in together. So Octopus, Allie B, Octopus. You might have to actually spell it right. Yes. So going to the website or going to my social media would be key to making sure you get it without just being annoyed and giving up. But once you find it, you can favorite it, and then it'll continue to pop into your playlists and that kind of thing. And I will say, just like any person would, that my musical journey and my songwriting and kind of the album and everything, certainly I didn't do alone. As I mentioned, I had no idea how to do any of those things. And I just happened to find a friend and a colleague and a collaborator who was excited about working with me, and I was excited about working with him. And that's been the best part of the album, is not just it being out there and it kind of being a reflection of who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world, but I've been able to do something with my producer that was beyond my wildest dreams and better than I could have ever done if I had done it on my own.
Nice. I love that. Of course, you're given due to that. And by the spelling, you mean ALLIE.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for asking. It's ALLIE space B. Everything's lowercase because it's cute. It's a thing to do. And then Octopus is spelled like it is. And okay, pop quiz for you. Why is my album named Octopus?
I read this. All the different, the difference been a bit, but the outreaching, the connecting, and then there was a soft inside. So am I close?
No, yes, that's exactly what I said.
Okay, all right.
That's not really why.
Okay.
The real answer is that it's my Myers-Briggs type. INFJ. And you would appreciate that.
Of course I would. I was trying to give the real answer that you wrote on the
That's what I said. But what it really is, it's kind of the animal kind of characteristics that align with my Myers-Briggs type. And then the first letter is I. Introvert.
There you go. I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for making the time to be on. I'm glad it happened now, and I'm excited to continue to cheer you on. And I know the audience hopefully will go download the music, and you'll get it. You'll understand why we're talking about music above all else with Allison Walden today. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been so much fun.